God, I hope you leave enough room for my fist because I'm going to ram it into your stomach!
Long before The Hunger Games or even Battle Royale, The Running Man gave us a dystopian future where entertainment was at the cost of others and aggrandized by corporate America.
Is he beautiful? Who is he? Are you kidding? That's Ben Richards.
No, really. As in, the government and the TV station are the exact same. With the long in-production remake from Edgar Wright finally being released to theaters this year,
Stop filming me!
it's about time we looked at how the original came to be. It was not an easy road for this movie to walk before it could, well, run, with multiple directors and actors cycling through the project, a delay that was decided by a star so that he wouldn't compete against himself, an eventual lawsuit, and even a use of what we would now call a deep fake.
One of us is in deep trouble.
That freaked out test audiences so bad in 1987 that reshoots had to be made to explain exactly what was being seen on screen. Place your bets on stalkers or runners as we find out what the happened to the Running Man.
It's time to start running!
The story of how the film adaptation of The Running Man came to be doesn't start with Arnold Schwarzenegger's star power or even the draw of Stephen King movies in the 80s. No, the story of this film starts with a business owner not connected to Hollywood at all and a fateful stop at an airport bookstore. In 1982, the owner of the largest lightweight wheelchair supplier in the United States, Paul Linder, came across a copy of The Running Man while waiting for a flight. He had never heard of author Richard Bachman, but the tagline of "Welcome to America in 2025, where the best men don't run for president, they run for their lives." That tagline stuck with him like a good song lyric that he had to take a chance and get the story turned into a movie. While he thought it would be an easy task to get the rights, he was taken aback when the publisher told him the option to the rights would be $20,000 up front, and then an even bigger bump should the film actually get produced.
Killian, I'll be back.
Only in a rerun.
How could this be with an author that only had 4 published works and a story that only had 100,000 copies out in the world? Linder couldn't make a movie by himself though, and he knew that he needed to shop it around. He would end up finding the newly minted team of Taft Barish, who had some big-time experience between the both of them on the small screen and the big one. The team of Rob Cohen and Keith Barish were looking for a string of movies to set up for release and had a good mix of Oscar hopefuls like Endless Love and Sophie's Choice,
We have one hell of a show for you tonight.
as well as fun audience pleasers like Big Trouble in Little China. The producers liked the idea and wanted to make the movie happen, but also gave Linder a hard time for how much he paid for the rights.
I'm going to give the audience what I think they want.
That is until a Washington, D.C. bookseller figured out that The Running Man author Richard Bachman was actually Stephen freaking King. Not only were the 3 men blown away, with Linder even saying that the experience was like finding a Rembrandt in a Kmart, but they were convinced that using the King name would only help the movie. Only one problem with that: King wouldn't allow it.
It's showtime.
By the mid-1980s, King wasn't happy with a lot of his adaptations and felt, after reading the script for The Running Man, that it really only had the title in common. True to his words, the credits of the movie had credited it to Bachman, not King. While the movie was released at a time when the secret of Richard Bachman was out, it wasn't like today's easy-to-use internet searching, so the general public didn't know this little factoid. And of course, there was no way that Bachman would be as strong of a pull as King. With the rights good to go, a 30-page treatment was made that was a lot closer to King's dystopian nightmare than the Arnold-fueled one-liner-filled dystopian nightmare that we would end up with.
How about the light?
The book takes an everyman approach to the main character of Ben Richards. And I don't know about you, but I've never seen any man, let alone an everyman, look like the Austrian oak. The original thought of Christopher Reeve as the main character sounds good on paper, but without the clout of the King name on the poster, a star was needed.
That's all right. Keep it down.
In addition to Reeve, Dolph Lundgren and Patrick Swayze were considered before Arnold Schwarzenegger came on board. Once that happened, screenwriter Stephen E. D'Souza needed to tailor the screenplay away from the meek and desperate character of the book and more to the action-heavy superhero that Arnie would bring to the character. D'Souza was a good choice for this after his smash success scripts of 48 Hours, as well as Commando with Schwarzenegger in the lead. After 15 attempts at the script from the writer, he finally had one in place that fit the mold. But the toughest part of that process was making the movie more to what his lead star could do. Gone was the family drama behind the scenes of a sick child and a wife that had to become a woman of the night to try and support her family. Ben Richards would now be an ex-military man who was framed for the murder of hundreds of innocent people and wrongly imprisoned before ending up in the Running Man games when he is recaptured. The game's host and game show studio were greatly expanded upon as well, with D'Souza believing the game show aspect of it all would pump up the viewing audience like it does to the studio audience of the show inside the movies we watch. The stalkers were all given beefed up personalities as well. Instead of mostly nameless and faceless mercenaries hunting down the contestant, we were given gimmicky warriors who were handpicked by the audience, all of which looked like they at least stand a chance against the newly beefed up main character. The casting of these characters went to intimidating actors like former NFL running back Jim Brown, a friend of Arnold, and wrestler Jesse the Body Ventura, another former wrestler, and often seen henchman in Professor Toru Tanaka, and finally, actual classically trained opera singer Erland van Lith. On the side of Ben Richards would be his two running buddies played by Yaphet Kotto and Marvin McIntyre, love interest Maria Conchita Alonso, and oh yeah, Resistance leader Mick Fleetwood, who some fans posit that he's playing himself here. In the middle of the two factions is the real villain of the movie, Damian Killian, who was combined from two characters in the book. Killian was originally offered to Burt Reynolds, who liked the idea but eventually turned it down when he was told that he would be billed last. Talk about an ego. Production turned to actual game show host Chuck Woolery of Wheel of Fortune and Love Connection fame, but he had to turn it down due to commitments to his multiple hosting gigs. Finally, Schwarzenegger suggested that his good friend Richard Dawson, who was the host of Family Feud, and the producers finally had their host and executive. With the cast and script set to go, producers needed a director and first hired George P. Cosmatos after his massive success with Rambo: First Blood Part 2. Unfortunately, the director tried to take the script in directions that the producers felt unacceptable, like focusing too much on the revolutionary aspect and moving the bulk of the film to a mall location. Depending on which story you believe, Cosmatos either left when the production was lowered or was fired when producers found out his changes. The film was next offered to Alex Cox, Carl Schenkel, and Ferdinand Fairfax. Spoiler alert, none of these worked out. Cox couldn't make it work in his schedule with too many movies in succession, Schenkel was terrified of the scope of the picture, and Fairfax, like Cosmatos, wanted to take it in an entirely different direction. With the production date creeping way too close for comfort, they finally found their man in longtime cinematographer Andrew Davis, who at that time had only directed forgotten slasher The Final Terror and the Chuck Norris vehicle Code of Silence. Spoilers, it wouldn't turn out great for Davis either. Filming began, and after only 8 days into shooting, Davis was $8 million over budget and nearly a week behind schedule. To make matters worse, he filmed scenes that were entirely created by himself that producers didn't agree with and felt like a waste. Davis would be fired, but don't feel too bad, as the rookie director would go on to make a couple of Steven Seagal's most popular films, as well as The Fugitive with Harrison Ford.
I didn't kill my wife! I don't care!
With the film now behind and an ever-ballooning budget, poor George Linder even had to sell his wheelchair company to help with the finances.
You can't live with them, and you can't live without them.
Producers looked to Starsky and Hutch actor, yes really, Paul Michael Glaser. Glaser was moving from acting to directing and had done episodes of Miami Vice for Michael Mann, who recommended the former TV actor wholeheartedly. While Arnold was unhappy with what Glaser did with the movie, he did exactly what the producers wanted. Like most TV directors, he was able to shoot fast and move on. Glaser kept the movie on budget and on time for the remainder of the filming schedule. The Running Man predicted quite a few things, including reality TV, and specifically helped get the hit show American Gladiators. The producer pitched it like a TV competition version of the movie, but minus the killing. One unexpected and relevant prediction was deepfake technology. Test audiences mostly liked the movie but were very confused when it appeared that both Ben and Amber were killed off with the use of deepfake technology to swap their faces to other bodies, only to have the characters appear shortly after. One producer got worried that the audience would be confused and so turned off to the movie that he had the sequence re-edited to make it clearer what was going on. The final hurdle to release wasn't fear of how the movie ended up, but rather who the movie was scheduled to go against. Arnold Schwarzenegger had a few duds leading up to 1987, and while The Running Man was an independently produced movie, Predator was backed by 20th Century Fox, and neither he nor the studio wanted the actor to go up against himself for revenue. The decision was made to move The Running Man into November from the summer slate to try and capture a different kind of audience. The Running Man was finally released on November 13, 1987, and while it was initially positive, with it bringing in over $8 million on its opening weekend, it was not sustainable. Critics weren't overly kind either, and to add insult to injury, the production was successfully sued for plagiarism by the producers of the French film Le Prix du Danger from 1983. Ouch. Still, the final box office numbers were a respectable $38 million.
Drop dead!
I don't do requests.
But off of a ballooned $27 million budget. While the movie would eventually be beloved by fans later on in life, it was unfortunately a disappointment to nearly everyone involved.
What a hothead.
Let's hope Edgar Wright's version can run its way to more success and fewer lawsuits. And that, my friends, is what the happened to The Running Man.
Here is Sub-Zero. Now, Plane Zero.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.